All right, here we are, everybody. We're gonna get going here. We're gonna start with this, and I'm gonna chew gum today. I was curious. I don't usually chew gum when I live stream because I talk a lot, but I just wanted to see. Well, actually, I just felt like chewing gum today. I don't need it. I feel like I need to make up a reason because I'm live streaming, and not only that, I'm also like live streaming professionally on Amazon Live. So I feel like I have to explain why I'm chewing gum. It's supposed to be professional, right? Um, but I just felt like chewing gum today. Is it weird that I have to felt like I had to explain that? Anyway, um, we're gonna. So this is a painting that I started earlier, or that I did earlier. I'm actually going to paint the wedding portrait now. We're gonna go back to the wedding portrait, switch to back to the other painting. I had get a little bit of craziness out of me, the crazy painting, the expressionist, the expression within me, the loose part of me, the part that just wants to kind of go ham on a canvas and like throw paint and see what works, what doesn't, experimental, things like that. So I had to get that out of me. It will never leave me completely, but I had to get it out of me for the day. And right now, I'm gonna go get the other canvas that we're gonna paint, and we're gonna swap them out. Let's fix this. Want some kisses? Just talking to my cat. I had to pay the toll by giving her some attention as I passed. And here we go. Swap out our easels here. Let's go just like this. There we go. Nice and easy. Oof. I didn't raise this enough. We're just gonna prop this canvas up somewhere. And here we go. Let's set this up in our space, nice and get it into a nice clean space here. Maybe prop it up. There we go. And we'll lock this into place. That's very important. Not that important, but it's important. Just to help keep it from like sliding around and moving. It's helpful. And here we go. So we've got this painting. I like where it's at. We're at a good place here as far as what's happening. So let me see how much I need to zoom out on this. On Amazon Live, I'm trying to debate whether it's better to have it widescreen or vertical screen. I mean, horizontal screen or vertical screen. 4 hours later, Michael Wilbur, what's up, dude? All right. Yeah, here's the funny thing. I don't have an audience on Amazon Live. I think it's interesting. Amazon Live, no one ever chats with me. Even though people do jump into the live stream, but no one ever chats with me on Amazon Live. So I don't know why that is. but maybe because it's like shopping, people don't like to talk or something. I don't know. I swear I'm a kind person. Okay, I guess if you have to say that, then that suggests that you're possibly not really a kind person. Who knows? But what we're gonna do, I gotta bring up my other reference. So I'm using a reference for these weddings. And let me bring up these references. What do I want to paint right now? I want to get these trees painted in. I want to get these trees painted in. And let me see. So I'm going to use... here we go. So I got a smaller version of one of my favorite brushes. This is the, so I actually have the name on this now. We've actually got the name on it, but my Princeton Polytip Catalyst brush. So this is, hey Faye, welcome back Faye. How's it going? How's your life going? I just remember that name from a few hours ago. Did you say that you're an artist too? Because I'm totally open to doing promos of people's Instagram channels, etc. Instagrams, YouTubes, if that makes you happy. But you have to be over the age of 18. I don't know how old you are. I don't need to know how old you are. All your information, I believe in privacy of all of my viewers. But just conversationally speaking, if you do want to be engaged in the conversation, and you are over the age of 18, I am totally open to plugging and sharing other people's channels. But I will not do that. I will not ask for it or request of it if you're under the age. So here we go. How old am I? I'm old enough to be here, to be doing this. So let's get back to what I was just saying. So I finally got a new version of my favorite brush. What did I do with the original one? Oh, here we go. All right, so I can actually see the brand here now. This is great. So this is the Princeton Polytip Bristle. Princeton Polytip Bristle. And you could tell it's the Catalyst version. You could tell that it is... it's a synthetic fiber, and it's longer, or it's got the black ferrules, these little metal things that hold the bristles together. And this is my favorite brush. So I got this 0 size, a 2-0 with a slightly longer handle. And obviously this other one was a little bigger. I think this one's maybe like a 4, or maybe even a 2, as far as the point goes or whatever. But I absolutely love these brushes, because although I haven't had a single brush ever in my entire life, which is my painting life more specifically, which isn't really that long, only a few years, that I've never been able to keep a brush point, so I don't expect it to hold its brush point. Yeah, exactly. They use you could use a glue, I guess. I've never tried that. Michael knows all the cool tips and tricks. I just end up buying a new brush, or I just use small brushes. But I love this brush because it's synthetic and it holds a lot of paint and it really holds its shape. Oil paint can be really rough, and as long as you're able to, and if you can find a brush that can handle the roughness of oil paint and mineral spirits. I use a lot of mineral spirits. I'm always cleaning my brushes with mineral spirits, wiping it off. And although that's really bad for the brushes, like, because the mineral spirits are bad in the sense that they're very rough. Mineral spirits is a very rough liquid, even compared to oil paints. It helps me keep their lifetime. So it's either sacrificing the life of a brush or the point of a brush, I think. And you know, I don't really need the points because I can always just use smaller brushes. And I think the big thing is if you go bigger, with your paintings, as you start to do bigger and bigger paintings, you're going to not worry as much about these super small details until, you know, you get into like a painting like this where, you know, you have to get some fine details on a face. That's when, you know, some of the struggle can come. But you just work through it. And with that said, let's get back to painting here. One of my goals for today is to tighten up these trees. One of the things I did recently, aka yesterday, was to reduce the brightness, the contrast of this. So this originally was like a white with some yellow and blue highlights. But I've decided that I wanted to get rid of that because it was just too bright. It was like eating up her dress. And we all know that the dress is probably I mean, besides the bride and groom, obviously, the dress is probably the most important thing of a bride's clothing. So it was important for me to at least get that part and get her, you know, reduce the color of everything else so that she could have the colors on the dress and make that the key idea here. So ultimately, let's go into these trees. You know, let's have some fun with the trees. The trees are the fun part. I mean, the whole painting's fun, right? Everything's fun. We love every part of painting. Although the only part the type of painting I don't like to do is like tape painting. Anytime I have to do a painting, I actually never have to do a painting like this. I do it by choice. And then that's how I found out I didn't like it. But anytime I have to do a painting where like I have to put tape to create straight edges, and then like I paint those straight edges after everything's been meticulously planned, that's the type, you know, I don't usually like that type of painting. It's not as fun, but hey, because like I already, like it's not that it's not like fun or whatever, but by the time I'm like done designing it, planning it, I feel like I don't even need to be there. I should just like hire somebody to do the painting for me. Because all the design's done, I don't really need to, you know, be there. It's like I'm just kind of, I almost feel like a machine could do it. Like it would be something like if I did a tape painting and I could somehow hire AI to do like a robot, a machine to just, aka an intern who just happens to really like my work and wants to get in good graces or whatever, an intern or something to do the painting for me. I'm talking about tape painting, not specifically other paintings. I love doing all the other types of paintings, but tape painting I can't do. I would totally let an intern. That would be like one thing that would let somebody else do my painting for me, is tape painting. I call it tape painting, but really it's hard edge. There's a term for it, immaculate, like an immaculate style. There was a style that evolved during the 80s or whatever called the Immaculates. And basically they did paintings that were like immaculate, right? It's like perfect lines, perfect hard edges. I mean, these are very popular today too, and people pay lots of money for these immaculate pieces that have like the perfect clean lines, perfect straight edges. And, you know, lots of brilliant artists use this style to create, I'm not doing that right now, but they use it to create their artwork, and it has a beautiful effect. It's very clean, very crisp for contemporary design, but it's just not for me. And, you know, it's good to know what you like to do, what you're willing to do, because if something is dreadful, you're not going to do it. So you really got to figure out what it is as far as artwork goes you're willing to do. This one will need a frame, yes. So I will sign the back. I actually don't know if the family that commissioned this, you know, whether they're going to frame it. They usually, I think they frame it themselves. Well, I haven't spoken to them about framing it, which means that if they choose to frame it, it'll definitely be on their own accord. But you know, that's like something extra that can be more personal, that a family would probably want to aim to do themselves. But here's something I actually enjoy more than tape painting, is like adding little brush details. I know this is like so minor, and it looks like just like doing these little dots of stuff, little dots of color here. Capture the leaves. And let's change up this brush a little bit. This brush is a little too hard. I need something a little looser. The brush is a little too hard, too crisp. I need a brush that's a little bit less rough. And I still want to capture these trees almost in the same way that I captured this, but a little bit different. We're gonna change some things up, but not too many things. So we're gonna come into here. Yeah, there we go. So this brush has a little bit more give. It's a little bit less stiff because it's not as new. So I get the opportunity to really, like, you know, pop in here and add these little details here. And here we go. And one thing I've noticed, it's good to sometimes have like bigger brushes. Let's see, Brian Keith says, you have used tape for a few abstract works. In general, you don't like the lines, but you just got to use them. Yeah, I mean, you know, I don't have a problem using tape, but it's when the entire painting, like that one painting I did myself, that was of a cat. I just could not stand that process. That process was so uninspiring to me that I just was so glad when it finally finished, that cat painting. If y'all were here, basically I taped, and you know, every line of it was taped, and every line of it, part of a cat was taped, and all the lines were, I don't know how else to describe it, all the lines were taped. And it was just all the way down, just lines and lines and lines of tape. And I just did not have fun with that piece, you know? It was just too much tape. And I get it, you use tape for straight lines. I'm not criticizing the Immaculates as a movement, or any artist that uses hard edges, clean hard edges, because it does create a beautiful effect. And you know, I myself can appreciate the fact that all artists have different things that make them, I don't want to even say unique. Like, uniqueness aside, yeah, everybody's unique, but like, more importantly, from a creative standpoint, we all have like these habits, these inner workings of what drives us to make things the way we do. And you know, some people just love that tape style, right? Pete Mondrian, obvious example. Really, really amazing artist. Changed the way we see the world. I just could never see myself doing that type of work. So anyway, let's go, we're gonna come up in here, give it like a natural little section right here. Snap line. Michael says it's the the meds. You talking caffeine, right? Caffeine meds. All right, so let's see. We can actually add a variety of colors in here, but let's go down into here, and we're gonna have some darker shades right here for some shadow. Get some darker shadows in here. Let's try to bring in some purples too. We're going to use some space for our purple here. We're going to find some purple right about here. Let's go bring in some purples right around there. Just to add some color variety into this thing. Some little paint booger right there. Let's go into here. Add some of our shadows. Let's go for, we're just going for some purple, this dark purple on green right now, as we start to build up some of our areas. And you know, that end goal that's in mind is really just to have some color brilliance. And I don't mean like personal brilliance, like, oh, so like mental brilliance, but just color brilliance as in I want the light, I want the highlights to pop in some of these areas here. Actually, I should probably be using this for some of these plants here. Let's see, we could probably add a nice yellow here. And then, you know, a couple of yellows back in right here. Let me see if I can bring back out some of these flower lines. Oh, and you know what? Back here, there needs to be some plantery. So we're just going to fill it with green for now. But eventually we will add our add our other colors. So, you know, I could see things starting to pop a bit more. I like that the bride and groom are like, you know, the most prominent, bright things in this painting. People, say people. Hey, take care, Brian. Take care, dude. All right. I should say people, right? Because that's what they are. They're people. Yeah, that's been the goal. So that's our goal for right now, is to have, you know, the prominent prominent of the bride and groom just being the main objects of attention in this painting, being the most important, you know, and trying to see how my brushwork is really affecting this area here. Gotta be cautious. Like too much brushwork can kind of like pull your attention away. So I just gotta, you know, keep that in mind and just see. I don't want to pull attention away too far. But another thing is I don't want the, so I have to be careful with this tree because I don't want it to be like so bright that it starts to like pull your eye in this direction. It just has to kind of like be like simple enough that, you know, you're still focused on this idea. That, you know, this is a wedding. There happened to be a tree here just to add some extra dimension. But I don't necessarily want to make it like so distinct that that it starts to pull attention away. So, and I can already see, because like now that I'm looking at this, right? Now that I'm looking at this, I'm thinking, okay, if I look at this, there's two bright areas. The area of these trees, and then, you know, this area with the bride and groom. And I don't necessarily want like too much visual competition there, so I might even have to try and darken some of that a little bit, even just a little bit, not too much. You know, little hints and pops of yellow are okay, but you don't want to compete with the. You don't want to visually have that competition with that. You know, it's funny. I work in I've done a lot of work. Got to close your eyes. You need some small people in the far background, left side or right, who balance the painting out. Thank you. It's actually a decent idea. They didn't want other people in their painting though, so. So it really was their choice whether, you know, I asked them, I was like, oh, you know, do you want other people in your painting? Like, no, it's okay. So. I'm just making all these marks with like a small brush. Very, very small brush. This brush, Shiro, this is so beautiful. Thank you. Thank you for sharing your thoughts. Or Cairo? Is it Shiro or Cairo? I might be pronouncing that wrong. Shiro or Cairo? And bringing in some of these highlights here, and then what happens in here? There's going to be a little bit of highlight. In fact, part of the goal of these trees is really just to block in and create like, you know, just some more interest here. And here's the thing, like, there's a lot of people that like say that there's no like real rules to composition, that it's all like kind of made up, and it really is. But here's why I think it's helpful though, is even if, hypothetically speaking, every single compositional rule was total BS, let's just imagine that, right? Let's just imagine the worst possible, the most hypothetical situation that all rules of composition are total nonsense and BS. Let's just imagine that. I don't believe that's true, but let's just, for a sake, imagine. But, you know, people still use them because they believe it, right? But where it would come in handy, where I think these rules are like composition and, you know, the things that we learn about stuff, even if they were not true and like some scientist proved to the entire world that none of them actually were true, at minimum, like even if they were not true, they do help me, at least in my opinion. You know, they help me, they help artists. They help the artist to start to generate ideas of how they want their painting to go. You know, and that's really powerful. That's really important. Because the less I have to think, the less I have to try and figure out like what I want to paint, less I have to figure out how I want to organize my painting. Like that's just makes it so much easier. And just by having like a compositional guide, even if it is total BS that doesn't do anything, like for example the golden ratio, right? Even if it was total BS, from a creative standpoint, as you're like painting things, it is at least helpful in helping you make certain decisions. And that is so great because it's great. So pronounce the real Cheeto. Cheeto. Thank you. Says I'm talented. 1995. What is Michael Wilbur saying? He's 19. Rules of 3. You learn only when you feel you made a mistake. All right. So Cheeto the hero. Shiro the hero is here. Shiro the hero. Na, 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 na. Shiro the hero. Alright, so let's go ahead and bring in some red. Ooh, yeah, it's a good time to bring in some red. Let's clean off this brush. And we're just going to bring in a couple pops of red, or like a toned down orange. Let's find a nice toned down orange here. I'm just going to add that like into here, so. And here we go. Even up here, we can add a couple little hints of red, highlights of red. Let's grab some nice big chunks. A nice large chunk of red. Nice big chunk of red. We're going to bring those into here. Just to capture different colors. I don't want it to over saturate and dominate with the red, but saturate and dominate sounds like something you might say in like and some motivational coach might say, saturate and dominate. But I don't want these reds to over dominate some of the colors here, so. And some of this is just adding shadow, adding highlight. clean off our brush here. And we're going to go add a little bit more highlights. Let's grab a lighter yellow. I'm going to go with a green, light green, white, green, yellow. And let's make some more popping right into here. Add some more variety into those leaves. And let's see. All right, so it feels somewhat natural. I could make some little improvements. Let's add some more highlights. Let's bring some more highlights internally into here, just to create, like, you know, a nice little separation pieces. Separate these like darker areas. And now let's do this other one. The other one should be a little bit easier. It's smaller and there's less, like, unless I really want to like push it out here. I could probably push it out to like right about here. Let's see, let's use my left, no, I'm gonna stick with, use my left hand. Is my left hand gonna work? I don't know. Yeah, I'm just gonna stick with my right hand. And let's go like right here. We're gonna go bring down this area. Can y'all see? Yeah, you can see. Anyone can see. Everybody can see what I'm doing. See what's going on here. Okay. Let's bring some highlights over here. So we bring some highlight right there. And we're gonna add some little pops of color inside. Bring this down right here. Let's see. Okay. So now that we've got that, let's go in with some of our deeper shadows. We're going to come into here and start to add these little textures that we have for our other tree. Let's also bring in some of that purple that we've been using. anyone think about how funny cats sleep? Like, hold on, let me see. I need to get a photo of my cat sleeping. She sleeps so funny. Where's my phone? Oh, come on, this is the moment. So my cat was like sleeping. I don't know how they sleep, but like I'm sure anyone who's had a cat has a cat that sleeps like this. But like, you know, their bodies are on the ground, their faces are just like, their nose is like a centimeter off of the floor of the table, and they're just like, somehow they keep their head up. I don't know how they do it. It must be the way their spines are designed, but it's like the funniest thing. I don't get it. I don't get how they do it. It's so cute. It is the most adorable thing. Adorable little kittens. They are the best. Kittens are the best. Some of the best little creatures. Best little creatures ever. Alright, what did I do with that brush? Let's see if it, like, how do cats sleep like this? Come on, let me see if I can get this photo. Okay, please tell me how a cat sleeps like this. I don't understand. Because how does their head just like rest there? She's about a year old. But how does their head just like stay up like that? With no arm, nothing. I don't get it. Like, I guess, you know, humans can like sit in a chair and their heads like bob forward, but it's like I can't tell if they're holding their head up or if she's like, if she's holding her head up, or it's just the way their bodies are designed that's how they sleep. A cat. If there's any felinologists, please explain. Philologists. I'm guessing that would be a cat scientist, a feline anthropologist. All right. So, anyways, that was a cat moment. Mobile devices are really just like devices for people to capture photos of their animals. That's really all it's good for. Who needs photography? A good picture of your pet will bring you more joy than any random photo could. I don't know if that's true in every case, but you know what I'm saying, right? People with pets know what I'm saying. People who love shutter speed placed on speed burst. What, Michael, are you saying? Please clarify your cryptic message. Please do clarify. And I want to add some more naturalness here, like going around. Excuse me. Oof. Okay. And there's some more shrubbage I can add. I have an opportunity to add some more unique shrubbage into this. So actually, let's get our purple again. Got our pink. We'll lay down some pink. Should I say rose color? This is a fantastic color, our rose, pale rose blush. And I want to find a violet. Alright, so I've got my violet going. Let's lay this violet down. I used the quinacridone violet and the Winton oil color. Oh, look at this. Who did that? Who did this? Who poked a hole into my dang Winton, my favorite color? Pale rose is like my favorite color. Man. Winton, I love your colors, Winton, but I usually have an issue with your tubes. Winton. Like, okay, so let's look at all my tubes. This is a little bit of a complaint. I know I shouldn't be doing this on Amazon Live. But out of all my tubes, all the ones that have holes in them are Winton colors. So if you're looking at this, I mean, y'all gotta figure out a manufacturer. Well, like this is a Winton. This has a hole in it. This is a Winton, and this has a hole in it right there. I had a brown that I threw away. It had a hole in it, and that was also a Winton. And I'm pretty sure there's got to be another tube of some. I mean, I have a lot of Winton because it's just so easy to get Winsor Newton paints. I think my gray has a hole in it right there. And these were pretty prime when I got them. So Winton, we got a bone to pick. You can see all the brands that I use: Gamblin 1980, Gamblin regular, Georgian, some Williamsburg. I have this unopened case of. I have this open case of Michael Harding. And the only tubes that I get holes in are my Winton oil color tubes. I don't know why. I can't blame it on squeezing too hard, but I do love I do like that Winton colors are very accessible. But at some point, you got to be like they're great, they're accessible, but Winton. You gotta step it up, okay, with your tube games. I gotta step up my artwork. You gotta step up your tube game. So anyway, I do recommend Winton. Winton's great. They've got some good pigments. There's usually some good sales on Winton. Can't always depend on sales to buy your paint supplies, but. Winton. I like Winton. It's just the tubes and their holes. I don't know what's up, why Winton, but it just happens to be like that. So oh, why? So Just out of curiosity, what does that do if I adjust my camera shutter speed down faster? Would it capture a less blurry photo? Is that the, were you saying that my photo is blurry, Michael? Are you criticizing my photography skills? How dare you? How dare you talk about my photography skills? Just kidding. All right, here's something we gotta do. We gotta put in our detail into this thing. Now that we've got our flowers, our plants going, now that we've got these, we need to make some little bits of make it a little bit more leafy here. I want to give some more leafiness to this. But I really don't feel like this is the main thing that I should add too much detail to. So, you know, at some point, it's like you got to make a choice of how much detail you want to add. Yo, crazy fox. Crazy the fox. The crazy fox. Crazy fox. Crazy fox. Where's red socks? Okay. So let's go. Let's do some facial detail, and then we're going to work on some of these buildings. And something else I want to do is I want to give his foot a little bit more length. So if we're going to move into the facial details, let's grab a paint, image for a reference. So some issues here, right? His face looks a little funny. Well, his face is okay. It's just I'm going to modify a little bit of the nose details. Let me see how I want to lighten up this pink that I have. Crazy fox is here. Let's go like this. Go into this nose. Because it looks like his nose is like really creased up at an angle. That is not so the case. So we need to darken this a little bit. That's a struggle I've been having with painting recently after switching to this new easel is seeing accurate values, because my easel now doesn't get the same type of light that it did. My easel doesn't get the same type of light that it did. So now it's all the values that I see are actually lighter than I think they are. So I have to like make that adjustment. Well, let me go with a nice black. I want to match her the dark color around her eye here. So this black is just going to come. Let's bring this up just a little. And then give him his eyelashes, nice and dark. And let's use this. I'm really liking this brush for detail because it's got the perfect point right now. And if I use this as the point, you know what? I want to adjust the foot size here. I'm going to give him some bigger feet. You know, just let them like disappear into the dress naturally. And let's clean off. Oof, there's still so much black on this. What can I do? I can actually bring this up, right? I can bring up a nice little line. Show the crease. Let me see if there's anything I can do about the pant leg. I could make a nice little outline underneath the clothes here, so we could just go underneath the suit so that there's an extra dark shadow around there. Blend that around. just lay this down. Lay all that black paint down. No! Uh-oh. Everybody can see what happened. Accidentally moved. But let's see if I can rub it off. Oh, it's not good. We're just gonna have to paint over it with white. There we go. That was a little scary, huh? That was a little frightening. So I'm going to dip this in a little bit of oil. And we're just going to spread more of this black here. Give it like a nice little nice glazing. Nice crisp black suit, and then let's go back over this a little bit, you know? Why not? Nice and smooth. And my biggest fear is just accidentally going into anything on the white. That's my biggest fear doing this. Maybe we can actually pick up some more of this paint here and actually use it just to go right in. Okay. Woo! I was actually a bit nervous there. But I think we're good. I think we're good. Okay. All right, now let's figure out something. Alexa, what time is it?
It's 4:07 p.m.
Today's Thursday. It's Thursday. Let's go into more detail with our dress here. So I'm guessing I just need the veil to look like, you know, it's falling into as opposed to just disappearing into. So I need to do a little bit of work on this veil. You know, I'm trying to figure out exactly how to capture a little bit of this color separation on the veil. Because it is a little bit of a different color. And I want to go, you know, we're going to use this color just to have like a under foundation here. I think some of it would just drape naturally over, and then some of it would like I'm just using this color as like a base for a paint over for the veil here. How does the veil fall? It'd probably fall on the creases. And then just kind of rest on the rest of the bottom here. And then once this dries quite a bit, I can like, how's that looking? Yeah, that's all right. And as that dries, you know, I could probably just start laying down the color now. Let's see. Bring the white on top of it now. I'm just gonna bring this white on top of it. And let's see, now we got that. Let's get this little hair out of the way. Some of the brushes coming off onto the canvas. But you know what, let's leave this for now. Got the basic idea of how the veil is going to fall onto the dress. Let me just see if I have any other references that'll do the job. Not really. Because the rest of the references has her standing straight up, not necessarily like tilted with her head back. So I have to find, maybe it's like a triangle, you know, I should probably try to form like a triangle here. Find a good spot to and spread it out a bit. Have a natural fall. I don't want to make up too much, so let's save this, and then we're going to go over. It's going to require 1 or 2 days of dry time, this layer here, and not like totally dry, but enough for me to go over it with a nice crisp white to establish the to establish the veil much better. However, I think now is a good time to do the rest of the dress as well. Which, if we go over with another layer of paint here, we can actually find some nice beautiful little sections to capture. And let's see, you can probably zoom in here. Let's go like this. Go down. What I need right here is a little bit of a separation for her waist. And if I want to give it a little dimension, find a little hint of shadow here. Hint the shadow to go around the front of her waist. And then around the side. Might be too subtle, huh? Might be a little too subtle. Let me grab a smaller brush. This brush is a little too big for how confident I feel about working in this area without changing the structure too much. That brush is a little too big. And I think I need to take a smaller brush into this section. It's not about confidence, it's more about like, you know, trying to find just the right brush for the right specific area. This needs to be a little bit darker to give her some depth. Bring a little purple. Let's see here. So I've already used some of these like cooler colors. And we're going to come up. Yo, Master Yoda, what's up? Master Yoda. Master Yoda is here. And here we go. I'm starting to feel like, you know, I'm in this danger zone of overpainting our painting. So that's when I know, like, if I start to feel like I'm like painting, that's when I know, like, sometimes that I'm nearing the end. Is like I'm starting to feel like I'm overpainting ideas and concepts. So we're going to go right into here. Alright, let's go into this thing. The overhang. And with the overhang, I want to create those lines, the line details. Create our line details. So we're going to go with slightly darker blue. Let's do this. Do this. We're gonna go grab some more of this color. Let's go right here. And then this one's going to come down. One. Two. And three. How's that looking? Yeah, okay. Can work. Maybe a little less saturated on this next part. Actually, there's the part I want to paint over. It's this section right here. There could be some shadow in this part, so we're gonna go down, add some folds and stuff. Probably not necessary to get those folds. Let's get this other detail on the other side here. So we're going to go with that same. I want to reduce the deepness of this color. Let's start from here. So we're going to come down like right here. Focusing on the color of the fabric, or the color of the lines here. Give it some extra space, and then bam. One, two, three. All right. Now what do? We tighten up this section. We're going to tighten up, brighten our white a little bit. Oops, that's red. It's actually red. But you know what? You know, a little extra color into this couldn't hurt. Combine this element of like warm and cool. It actually adds something a little bit more interesting, right? Warm and cool. You gotta find balance. It's all about the balance between cool and warm. So like this. Bring this, cover this line up. Let's add another subtle detail. They have like these little tassels hanging, so we're going to bring a little tassel down. I think, you know, the only thing more important than the bride and groom in this painting, and maybe you could even argue that the bride and groom comes secondary to this, as far as a cultural perspective is concerned. But you could even say that, you know, the symbolism of all the objects could come first or second, right? The only thing as important as the bride and groom, as far as a wedding that is steeped in, you know, certain traditions goes, you know, some might say that the traditions actually are more important than the actual the bride and groom. Now, I'm not saying that. I'm just, you know, throwing that out there. That as the artist, you know, I realize that in 99.99% of the cases, right, you want to capture the bride and groom, but there probably is this element of
other things that are pretty important as well. Let's go ahead and adjust these lines here. These need to be a little bit less distinct because they're in the back. Let's see here, so
I'll have to redo that later, but I think we're good for now. Now let's do something about these windows. So these windows can definitely, I do want to capture some reflection, you know, just to show that these are windows, but you know, it's not too important, right? Like, honestly, this window doesn't even need to be this bright. This window's a little bit too, that's actually pretty inaccurate, this window. So let me find a way to start tightening up these windows. I'm going to use a flat brush. I'm going to use a flat brush. We're going to go with this blue-green. That's a problem with painting on multiple days, is you can lose colors really easily. So if I gotta match this color, I'm going like a blue, gray blue, I guess, like a blue gray. How do we get that? Let's go just right in. They should be about the same color. Let's go a little bit darker. Bring in our black. A little bit of a darker value. All right, that matches. Get this nice and clean. This work nice and clean here. And looking back, let's see, there is a line that comes down right in front of the shadow right here. Then, oh, I see what's happening. There's actually doors. So these are doors. There's doors here, but I'm not going to show the doors. I'm just going to show, I'm just going to make it look like there's little pillars here. I don't know what they're called, like separate window separators is what I'm going to call these. Just window separators. The building is not the detail that we actually care about. It's the people. Oh, I see. It's two different references. That's why this image isn't looking like that. But here we go. We're going to bring in some reflection to this one. And then this also has those two lines, so we got to capture that. Let's go right across here, but these are covered by the trees, so I don't need to do too much. And then for that, and then there's another one down here, which that needs to be captured, so we're going to come across like so. This one's going to be a little bit thinner. Go into here, we can add some of this color to here too. So help us like darken the windows a little bit. I want to darken some of these windows as well. There's a little bit too much highlight here. It's going to pull away. Pull attention, unnecessarily pull attention. I think this one's okay, but these other ones. All right. So now is a bit of a hard part because I got to really figure out how these windows are going to look. I could go black. Here, let's go with like a really dark look for them. Or go with like a really dark blue. Still not fully decided yet. Dark blue or dark red? I mean dark blue or like a black. And then I gotta find the right brush for this, so we'll go with this. I'll go with this Rosemary Co. Long Filbert. Gonna grab our blue. our Prussian blue, and we're gonna actually create like a slightly lighter shade of black.
Let's go into these windows. We'll black out the windows. And this is the challenge with oil paints compared to like, this is one of the challenges with oil paints compared to acrylic is, you know, with oil paints, if I want to paint over these sections, I have to wait, right? Like I have to wait until they're dry. Otherwise, they're just going to interfere and create muddy colors. But really, like with oil, most oil paints today, I know people say it takes a really long time to dry, but you can start painting over areas within like, depending on the paint that you use, within like 3 days. Honestly, I feel is like that's like the general rule that if you paint over an area with thin paint, so like if I paint really thickly, like you know these really thick chunks of paint where you can see the raised surfaces, or even these parts on the trees, then you want to give it even more time. But if you're using like mineral spirit and you're thinning out your paint a lot, meaning that so mineral spirits, what that does is it thins your paint. So it thins oil paint, hence they call it paint thinner. You actually don't need it. You can use oil, but you know oil just helps to reduce the amount of pigment and increase the amount of oil, which makes it more liquid, right? So all this paint is just a combination of oil and really finely grounded pigment. So obviously if you add more oil, which is why you know artists have extra linseed oil or walnut oil or I guess sunflower oil some people use. So that's why they keep it on hand, is so that they can manipulate the paint and make the paint do what they want. But another way to do that and even make your paint dry faster, which is great if you're doing like base layers, right? If you're doing base layers and stuff, if you're doing like a base layer, you kind of want it to dry pretty quick. So in those cases, you might use mineral spirits. Now again, mineral spirits, not mandatory. It used to be turpentine as the paint thinner, but you know that has really been phased out in favor of mineral spirits. But I think some people still like turpentine. I personally never used it. I don't think I would be able to handle the smell because my apartment gets really hot during the summers, and because of that, because of the hot summers, I just can't handle the heat, plus the air conditioning, plus you know all this other everything else that comes with the heat. So I really think I could actually even just make this window black too. Might as well just make them black, right? Or not black, but I wonder how that looks with the extra window that's like one off color. It's kind of confusing, right? I don't want to confuse people, so let's paint over it. But actually, let's paint over this other side too with the same color while I still have it. Actually, all of this. I need to just paint over all of this with this color while I still have it. This window, I think we can like think the other reason why I use like a brown, like a lighter brown, is because I didn't want his suit to disappear. But we can leave it in a little bit and just allow it to be. You know, his back disappears a little bit, but maybe that's okay. Because we get what a black suit looks like. Oh, he's wearing a bow tie. I thought it was a tie. Could have swore. Oh, he's wearing a bow tie. But this photo definitely makes it look like it's a tie. Anyway. I mean, you know, bow tie, it's a really big bow tie. Let's just put it that way. It's a big bow tie. Okay, that's cool. And then, let's go into these other colors here. Let's actually make these two buildings the same. I don't want this color to be like a distraction to people, you know? So people can look at it and be like, oh, why are these two different color buildings? And then it suddenly becomes this distracting thing. What's with these two different colored windows, right? Why are they different colors? And then it becomes distracting, which pulls away. And you know, if everything's like different, then that's cool, but I'm thinking about cohesion. I think it helps to get these buildings pretty much the same. Not buildings, but the windows pretty much in the same general direction. So we're going to take this paint again. This is some of our black. Let's get a little bit oil just for spreadability. Here. There we go. So just a few months ago I was talking about, like, you know, improving the spreadability of your paint. And you know, you can paint straight from the tube. But sometimes, like, especially if you have a little bit of paint that's like been on the canvas for a little while, and it's not totally dry, but it's not totally dry. It can get really sticky, and it can prevent your brush from moving nice and smoothly. So it's certain times like that when it's nice to, you know, have oil or mineral spirits nearby, so you can thin the paint, and it also affects the paint underneath. So that way, you know, everything moves along nice and smooth. Yo, oh yeah, Master Yoda was already here earlier. Okay, cool. I know Master Yoda. Master Yoda was here. Okay. Whew. Alright, this has been a lot, and we're nearing the end of this as far as the the main composition of everything. So I'm trying to think of like what's gonna go up there. I mean, not much. don't think too much detail needs to be put all the way up that far above the bride and groom. What we can do is we can darken some of these windows. You know what? I'm going to use a rounder brush. I'm going to use a round brush for this. I'm going to darken these windows. So if you pull too much light will pull attention away. So, you know, just the goal of like reducing some of the highlights. Let's see, we'll go to 3 of those, and then, you know, we'll randomly pick. Let's just pick. Not randomly. Let's go with these 3. This 3 right here can be, you know, darkened a little bit. And then we're just gonna go partially on this one. Let some of the reflection happen. Oh, and you know what needs to happen here? You don't know because I'm just saying stuff, and you know, it could be any 1 million things that I need to do. So I don't expect anyone to actually know what I'm about to do next. Okay, so up here, so these, you know, we need little like separators up here. So we need to create these nice little brick separators. And you know what I can do now? We're nearing being finished with this, but I'm actually going to drop this easel for this. I can actually stand on this easel. I don't know how safe it is, but find out one day. So I'm going to drop this down a little bit. Originally I raised this so that I can paint this. So this is great because it's got a lot of levels, so I could paint stuff right at the very bottom. But here's the funny thing, if I raise it one more, I think it'll hit my ceiling. So I really can't work too high on this. Let's see. Yeah, this is as high as it'll go. At this point, it actually hits my ceiling, so this is as high as I could raise it. But here's the thing, I mean, you know, it would be nice. I kind of like lose the benefit, but you know, I basically have to use my whole entire room vertically to really use this. But as far as that's concerned, you missed the flower painting. How come, Ozu? How come? But anyway, I can actually drop this. I'm going to drop this so I can paint this ceiling area easier. Let's lock this in. And I will say, I am pretty happy with how sturdy and stable this. Oh, it's like eye level again. Wow.
so interesting. I've been looking at everything else from bottom up for the longest now. It's funny to see it at this angle. So let's go into our reference photo, and we're just going to go like this, so I can actually work pretty tight to the top. You know what? I want to use some straight lines. So what can I do? Does anybody need anything from Target Optical? Because if you do, I think Amazon also has an optical team as well. But so we're going to use a postcard here. Create our straight line. It's not really helping. It's not really giving me a straight line. Probably better if I just go. Ooh. All right. And then how do I make these lines going across? I need stability here. Someone give me some stability in my life. I need stability. Raise the roof. I think the important thing is whether these go across. Probably could go lighter with them. Doesn't need to be black. Just go across. But you know what? At this point, like I just need a straight line here. I don't need the rest to be. Too accurate. And this one here. Like that here. Let's see if that one's down there. One in there. And then here we go. So boom. Got one right at the bottom here. And here we go. So we're going to go into this. Let's go tighten up the details around this building. Because as you can see, there was some right here needed to be tightened up. Maybe tighten up right here.
Actually, this entire window back here can be darkened. So we're actually going to darken this window right here. Straighten this up. And let's go. I wonder if people will get that these are two different building designs. Hopefully. Hopefully people understand that. Let's see what we can do about this section right here. We need to raise this up. So let's clean off this brush. Actually, no, it might be able to go into some of these windows here and try to darken them a little bit. We'll change the overlay here just a little bit for this next window. You know what? This might be better. And I want to make this a little darker, just a little bit, but we're going to take a green here. I'm going to go over with like a dark green gray, a green gray. And honestly, it did look more like this at night. During the nighttime, it did look a little bit more. All the windows were pretty much blacked out. By the time I had started this painting, I was already so far in that I was like, no, let me just see how all this works out. I think the Impressionists wanted to capture everything, but I think a little bit of drama can be added by creating this contrast. Right? Like, I think what the Impressionists gave us was to just capture the beauty of everything, capture all the colors. all around. That's not always necessary.
I think it looks a little better now.
Alright, I do like this, the window darkening. And I can actually add a little highlight to the cup. Alexa, what time is it?
It's 5:09 p.m.
But before we do that, I want to make this building area here. Let's go into this building area, grab like our yellow ochre, which we've been using, find our white. It's probably the 10th time we'll be changing the color of this thing here, but that's actually a pretty good match. I could be happy with that. So we got windows. Got some good vertical lines. Let's try to figure out what else is important here. So this will have some reflection just because it looks like too bland. So let's go into here and let's go. I don't want to make it too bright. I just want a little bit of like some little bits of highlights here. Try to get some more of this color in, some more of this highlight, punch it up a little bit. I don't like how messy it looks, so I want to smooth out these sections here. Smooth out this one just by brushing. Smooth out this one just by brushing up and down. Smooth out this central area. This section. let's go. No, I don't want to use this brush for that. We're going to take this. What should we do?
These buildings. All right, so these buildings actually have little plants in them. So that's what we're going to capture. We're going to capture these tiny little plants. And I have a brush that I'd like to use, which is this funky brush that I really never got used of because it's really stiff. If I can find it. If I can ever find the brushes that I need. So it's, So this is what happens when you buy the wrong brushes. So all these brushes, a lot of these brushes are brushes that were not designed for oil painting. Now this one was. I have some good brushes in here, but I also have some brushes that are kind of wrong. Because, you know, if you buy brushes that say, oh, this is for watercolor, oil painting, and you can use it for acrylic, that is totally false. There's no brushes that work for every single one in my only moderately professional opinion, because oil paint is very different than acrylic. Acrylic is very different than watercolor. Watercolor needs some more delicate bristles. They never need to be like taken care of as in the same way. You just got to rinse them off. That's it. Acrylic brushes, I think, also use water, but acrylic brushes aren't. Acrylic brushes are easier to manage, I think, because you just need water. But then there's oil paint brushes, and it's a whole different monster. You really got to think differently when you're considering oil brushes. And there's just no brush. And I seem to have lost a brush that I thought I might use one day, but I never, pretty much never do. Okay. Well, there goes that example. Which reminds me, I should clean up my station here. It's gotta be here somewhere. Let's see. Fall? There's a brush down here. Oh, that's a pen. Alright, I can't find the brush. Oh, here it is. Okay, so here's the brush I was actually looking for. It's a really short filbert. So literally called a short filbert. It says it's a level 2 oil brush, but here's the thing: why I'm a little skeptical of whether this actually works is because it didn't last very long. It kind of like, well, even though this was around the time when I started to learn how to clean brushes, it's still got this stiffness. And all that time, now I'm looking at it, I'm like, I don't really think that this is going to be the best brush for what I want to do. So let's despite all that search and rescue, let's just go with this brush, and we're gonna go, let's grab our green here, and come right up into this window. And then come up here. You know, we'll bring in a little bit of highlight to create some different dimension into this. I'm not actually seeing this, but why not? I'm not actually seeing the color variation. It's just one big blob of dark plant life to me. But why not add a little bit of color variety? That's why, you know, it really helps to work when you're working from life. It's very helpful. And then, you know, photos are good, but not for like super detail. Unless you're taking very specific photos of certain areas, like if I was focused on trying to figure out what was up here. But I didn't do that, so. And I do actually see some purples. So let's go grab some purples here. Let's go in with some purples into this. And then let's go with some branches. So some nice confident branches. Let's go boom. And then boom. Let's grab this red. And we're going to go with this red. Actually, darken it a little bit. I want it, well, it's okay to take away a little bit of it. It's okay to add the little red pops of color here. So we're just going to go. And let's add some greens and reds, or greens and yellows. You just barely see what's going on. Oh, hey. Nobody was saying anything that they couldn't see what was happening. And there we go. So a little detail right there to cover up the window, which, you know, who really cares about the window, right? And let's look over here. Windows are looking okay. Some nice standard window fixtures, nothing fancy. Let's go
go up and down with some vertical lines here. So we want to get some nice thick vertical lines. And this one too will have some. For the second window, should be okay. Let's get some. That won't do. Everybody can see. Okay. Sometimes I worry about whether. I know when I wear a hat, my hat totally covers up the screen. No one ever tells me. No one ever goes, hey dude, you're like covering up the screen with your big yellow head. People are so polite. People are so polite nowadays. So polite. Okay, right, let's do that again. I'm gonna bring this line straight down, which needs to go like right down this way. Let's see now. Did I do that brush? Bring it down right here. And what I gotta do is I gotta go back into this detail again. Let's just make sure that it's nice and crisp. Just wanna have like a nice crisp edge. That's better. Now let's do this other building. So this other building, fairly similar. know what I should do is I could probably bring these clouds over just a little bit. And I might regret this because if I do even that, I might have to change the whole entire sky color. Create some atmosphere. A little bit of atmosphere. I'm pushing this over a little bit. Which building is this? It's the building that's having issues. Probably push that over just a little bit further. Because I want to be able to show just a sliver of light going into there. Now, whenever you can like add an extra layer of like three-dimensionality, I think it could be pretty good. You don't always need to do it, but whenever you could do a little bit of extra three-dimensionality to like give the viewers something to look at, it's helpful. You know what? I need to paint the sides, so I'm gonna go pretty loose. I'm gonna go pretty loose with the side of this painting here. Just to create different layers. Some different layers here. They're not overly painted, just a little bit to create a cohesiveness. Because I think they're gonna end up getting a frame anyway. Some dark greens and some light greens right here. And some greens around the side. At some point I gotta get this top too. But now that we're right here, let's work on one space at a time. Let's try to keep our focus. That's probably the hardest thing for me. I watch a lot of like YouTube video or Instagram videos and like YouTube videos when people paint big ass dome. Oh, is it really blocking? Oh, hey, so let's see. Danny E, what's up? Birthday, wow. And she bought you an oil painting set and a travel palette. Can I share some tips to get started?
Video good idea expert. Wow, thank you so much. Yes, it is a commission. Was my big ass dome is blocking. Okay. Well, welcome back, Danny. Congratulations. Happy birthday. A oil painting set. I mean, that's amazing. I think I know you work with mostly watercolor. Is that like watercolor or certain colored pencils? Canache, Carte de Nage or something. That's what you usually work with. I don't remember if they were some sort of pastel. But it looks like you're getting into oils, which is so cool. But I mean, I could definitely make a video. But it kind of like depends. I mean, I can always make videos, but I think it comes down to like, since we're here, and if you are watching, if you are still here, what is it that you're concerned about? Since it's live right now, you can actually have this conversation. Whereas, if I was to just make a video, I'd be like, oh, 10 tips to, go outdoors and paint. And honestly, the answers might not be the type of answers you would want. They'd probably be more like, have no fear, and, be prepared that people are going to want to talk to you, and, figure out how you're going to respond to them. But also realize that, most people just want to, like, chat. And, I'd probably say stuff like that. I might even say something goofy, like, well, I guess it's not that goofy, but if someone comes up to you with their child, let their child have a hit at the brush. And I've done that on multiple paintings. Some kids are just absolutely brilliant. Like I've had a kid that was training as an artist, and she actually taught me how to paint. And I still use the things that I learned from that one, thing that she painted onto my canvas. And then there's a kid that literally, so I was painting this big seascape, and he just took a big chunk of black and just started, down the side, made this big thing of black. But what was great is in the ocean, so I could blend it into the ocean. But still, you never know. I take that risk where I feel confident in the idea that oil paint, what's great about it is you can work it for hours, right? I can work these sections for hours. Now, I wouldn't recommend it. You really want to know what you're doing in a specific spot. But like I could just work this space over and over and over and over for at least a couple hours before the paint finally dries and says stop. But anyway, back to your set. Are there safety issues with using and disposing of oil paints? What kind of stuff should you start with painting? So disposing of oil paints, I mean, you got to look at your city's regulations. So in California, I definitely have to like keep my stuff, and then I have to take it to a disposal. But you don't want to be pouring it down like the drain and stuff as far as like your stuff. So I kind of like store it, and then I send it out. But ultimately it's like, I guess your rags, if you're using linseed oil, like don't put it under like a magnifying glass. And if you're using don't put it on a magnifying glass, because it could but it's like serious, but it's not that serious, right? Don't overthink it, I guess. As far as all that, you're gonna keep your oils on you. You're gonna keep your paint supplies on you, so you don't have to worry too much. But I think just have fun, really. It also depends on what kind of oil paints you have. So if you look on it, you should see what it says and know the ingredients. And that's a bit of a learning curve to like know all the ingredients. But like here, okay, so this is permanent yellow, and it's PW6, PY1, so some sort of yellow, PYPW. Alexa, what is the pigment PW6 in oil paint?
It is a high-intensity color pigment that is used in oil as well as acrylic paints and other applications.
All right, well, usually she'll say like this is this metal or that metal, titanium or whatever. But I mean, just take care of where you're at, and yeah, you don't have to worry too much. Yeah, there you go. So, good resource for, so Omizu Paints recommends a channel called I'm_painting_badly. And, you know, they're a great resource. So yeah, I mean, that's the thing too, is like, also find a great teacher. I would not call my channel a teaching channel. I just, you know, go on and on about my thoughts. But as far as that goes, I mean, as far as like what to start out with painting, I think a good thing to start out with painting is painting what you've already been painting. And I think that's a lot of portraits, unless that bores you. But like the most basic thing to start painting, because like you've already started doing that, right? I'm not saying portraits are a great thing to start on, because they're actually, you know, they're pretty difficult, like, because you have to get skin color, flesh color, all the different things. But as far as I'm trying to think, like, part of me wants to say, well, you should start on still lifes and then painting little spheres and then learning how the light works around the sphere. But the thing is that's like, you know, basic 101 stuff. I think the truth is that you've been painting things, you've been sketching things, you've been doing like portraits and all of these things. And I say just like start off small with some of those and then go first. Do one landscape, do one portrait, and then do one still life. And if you feel like it, you know, do one of those. Like this was one of my first paintings when I did oil. Let me see if I could, if it's in here. So this was one of my first oil paintings when I started. It was just, I wanted to do like an impressionist style, like, you know, classic, just shapes and things with one single color. And honestly, something like this is pretty fun too, you know? I mean, it doesn't sound that exciting, but it could be fun if you find the right resource, right? And then just, yeah, I mean, I don't know what else to say. Like these are pretty cool. If you feel like something, like if you feel like you have a good grasp on color and all that, then, you know, just pick a subject matter and, you know, just have fun with it. But if you feel as if, yeah, I mean, just have fun. That's all I can say. Just, yeah, have fun. Enjoy it. You can either do something basic or you could do like something really unusual. I painted a fire station. This is my first fire stations. But this is a paint over, and it's been heavily painted over, which means it looks way different, but, you know, just the basic design, just these, you know, smaller paintings. So yeah, go on a rampage. I say, like, you know, like whatever your mind chooses to just go on a rampage, right? If your mind wants to do something weird, do it weird. I mean, that's not weird. This is just abstract. And honestly, one of my first abstract paintings was the first paintings that I sold. I was like, oh, you know, it was on a canvas maybe a little bit bigger than this, and it was really loose. I was just experimenting, and you know, like you can even tell there's a huge change in how colors applied and built. But I actually like this painting. I like all my paintings. You know, funny stories. So the family that commissioned me for this painting is so they met me while I was doing this painting. I was doing this painting out in Malibu, and you know what? I was very fortunate to have like met them. So I was just painting outdoors. So you could tell, like, You know, you look at this and you're like, okay, like anything could lead, anything can lead to something, right? Anything can lead to something. You know, if I look at this old painting, I still like it. It has a charm to it. It has like a cute, quirky, like, okay, it's kind of a small study, but it's fun, you know. But could I do a better job now? Probably. But still, like, you know, anything can lead to something. Anything can teach you. Anything can be a learning experience. So, you know, what do you start with? It's just a teacher, a classical school is going to start you with either, you know, because they're not going to take you on a trip to the beach to go paint, right? As a teacher is going to be like, hey, we got a studio, paint some still lifes, paint some objects, or paint somebody nude, a nude figure. But, you know, I prefer going for whatever it is that really, really inspires you. So that's why I'm not a teacher, because I don't have structure. Well, I guess I did share structure. And then, like, you know, some other earlier paintings, like I did do still lifes. I did do still lifes, right? So I mean, that's the standard, right? Just doing still lifes is pretty much the standard thing to do. Still lifes are the standard. But if you're stuck and you need specific guidance, I would say still lifes. But I would also say maybe like don't even have the pressure of a still life, because when you have when you do a still life, you're doing the still life and you're like, okay, you know, I know that this is a teacup, so it has to look like a teacup. And then you have this teacup sitting in front of you that you're always comparing to. But if you're willing to take yourself outdoors and paint nature, like, you know, Bob Ross, watch a Bob Ross video before you go painting. You know, just watch a Bob Ross video for like 20 minutes before you go painting. I'm not saying to paint like Bob Ross, but just get that inspiration in your head. I think the greatest gift that you can take from Bob Ross as far as watching him isn't how to paint a landscape. It's how to, it's more so like how to manage your paints, how to have confidence, like, you know, to take a space that you're looking at and just build color on it without fear, with joy instead of fear, I guess. Hence this show, The Joy of Painting. I don't know, I go on and on, but I also realize that going outdoors to paint can be intimidating, because one, there could be people coming up to you, and two, if you're unprepared, then, you know, you could overthink it, like bathroom breaks, where do I put my supplies, how much do I have to carry, how much do I have to walk. But if you kind of like just let that flow through your head without interrupting you, you're good. But anyways, Omizu, again, we will give a shout out to Omizu's highly recommended teaching resource that also touches on responsible oil painting, which, come to think of it, I really never talk about responsible oil painting, because there is some important things that come with the responsibility of it. You know, disposing of your rags properly, not, you know, disposing things properly, because these are heavy metals, things like that. So, but it's also not as hard as you might imagine. But as far as all that is concerned, yeah, that's a good point. I should talk more about the. I don't know. I guess I think so. Like, I think sharing all of that, the disposable element of it, can already be overwhelming for people who are new, and or just like painting in general can already be overwhelming for people that are new. So that element of it, who knows? But here we are. It's been 2 hours. Solvent is the worst. Yeah, solvent is absolutely horrible. Don't drink the solvent. That's another tip right there, is make sure that the water that you bring so that you can paint outdoors safely in heat, which it's hot right now, it's summer. So if you're gonna go paint in heat, bring water and then separate your solvent. And honestly, I would say use gloves. When I first started, I didn't use gloves when I painted with oil. But, you know, I could quickly see how mineral spirits was negatively affecting, well, like the fact that it could literally just dry oil paints, dry out oil, right? Think about it, our skin, our hair, all of this stuff is filled with natural body oil. And I don't know if body oil is the same, you know, how it interacts with, as far as like walnut oil, safflower, linseed oil, or whatever. I don't know how it interacts, but the fact is if you take mineral spirit or turpentine and you mix it into your oil paint, it's gonna dry that oil paint so much faster. So you can already imagine if it could dry that thick of oil, what it can possibly do to your hands. So, you know, maybe it's not necessary your first couple times. You probably don't need gloves your first couple times if you're not using salt or mineral, if you're not using thinners. And if you just use natural oil, I would say probably stick with natural oil for your first few painting sessions, right? You don't need to know how to like overly thin oil paint in the early phases. Just use like a natural oil. And then eventually if you decide that you feel like you want to get it thinner, you want it to dry much faster, you want it to have more spreadability, you want to experiment with its you know, liquefied oil paint, which is basically oil paint that's like just drips. If you want to experiment, then start to go into mineral spirits. But that's really only good if you're like doing abstract stuff and you know you want to let that drip happen. Like, let me share an example here. Yeah, open window. So for me, I don't have an open window. I'm a horrible what's it called? Example right now because it's summertime. It's 90 degrees. Alexa, what's the temperature right now? Oh, it's 90 degrees where I live, and I just cannot paint in this hot weather. So I usually try to air my apartment out at night. But like the only reason that I feel like you would really want to use mineral spirits early on is if you want to experiment with like these effects, which is these very like wet, oily effects, which you can't really do some of these effects with just the oil paint straight out the tube because it's not that liquid. You got to liquefy, and you can do it with oil, but still, oil is still just a little bit thicker and denser and less liquid. But, you know, if you really want to experiment with effects, but you don't really need to do that right from the beginning. And then it's summertime. Like, depending on the ventilation in your home, you probably could wait at least, you know, till it cools down a little bit. Oh yeah, travel set. So what kind of travel set? What do you mean? Is it like a small easel that you can prop up on a table, or does it comes with like, and also there's like these little tube canisters that you could get, one for oil, one for mineral spirits. I don't know if it comes with that, but you know, I mean, you got what you got, and you build up from there. That's it. You got the skill to make the paintings that you want to make, Danny. All it, like, whatever your portraits are, all those things, like, all it really comes down to once you throw in oils is just figuring out how to manage the oil. That's it. Here's something that I'm noticing right now. I gotta take some of this gray here. Look into your city's regulations.
getting back in this. And here we go. So we're gonna bring this down and pop this over and bam, boom. Okay. So let's go like this. POSH. Yeah, it's the same brand as my easel that I'm using. Oh, Meeden? Okay, cool. Oh, POSH boxes are great. Yeah, I've seen them. Like, I join this paint club for outdoor painting quite often. Well, actually, like once every 2 months. But pretty much all of them use some form of POSH box rather than like a full-on large easel, because the full-on large easels can actually, you know, they could be a pain and they could get really heavy. And you know, I decided on a full large easel because I needed something in my home space as well as my, you know, outdoor painting activities. But POSH box is amazing. Great choice. Amazing choice there. And let's see here. What do we got? What do we need to do? I definitely feel like I'm reaching a certain point in this painting where a lot of what I'm doing, I'm getting so close to finishing up. I can feel it. I can feel it. It's great to have that feeling when you just start to realize that you're almost done. When you can feel it, when you can feel it. So I hope those answer your question. I mean, I could go on and on like forever. Probably not forever, but you know, long enough to make you go, okay, that's enough out of you. I get it. But more importantly, don't overthink it. I think that's the most important thing, is to not overthink it. Just think just enough to plan properly, right? Like, be ready to go out. Be ready that people are gonna try to say stuff to you, depending on, you know, how busy the area is that you're painting. Be ready to possibly be social and all that. But at the end of the day, have fun. Enjoy it. Get lost. Get lost in your painting. Get lost in the experience of creating something no one in the world has ever seen before. Right? Like, that's the most exciting part, that you'll be making something that no one has ever painted before, because no one can paint like you. Good or bad, it's all good. It's all good, baby. All good, baby. There we go. Oh. Yeah, Carter, what's up? I don't know. I don't remember you specifically, like, for a specific reason, but I do recognize the name as far as names that I've seen in the past few days. So yeah, do I remember you? Sort of. Do I know exactly what we spoke about?
No. But welcome back. I do recognize that name. Let's go like this. I need to carve this section. Let's grab a little bit of blue. So what brings you back, Carter? Welcome. Welcome, welcome. Nice to know that either you got a notification about my live stream again or something else. You just decided to pop back onto YouTube, that's cool too. That's great. And I think now would be a good time for a little break. Let's see. Right, what should I do? I want to. Hold on, you know what? Let me clean off these brushes. I want to smooth out some of the paint in this section. So let me flip this brush. Time to start cleaning up some of my supplies before I take a break. Not using any more of my small brushes. This brush is going to go. Let's see. Is there any paint? It's a green, dark green paint right here. Let off some dark green paint. And this has a lot of dark paint on it, so we're going to get rid of this. Yeah, hey, thanks. Yeah, I'm gonna paint a little more, but hey, congrats. So when's this so before we leave, Danny, let's chat. You know, I think this is one of those moments. It's like, what is your call to action? I know I did all the talking, but when I had a life coach, the most important thing that they did for me at the end of the session, and I'm gonna use that on you now. This thing that they did for me is, you know, what are you gonna do from here? What is your plan? And you don't actually have to share it, right? Like, if you don't feel comfortable sharing, like committing to a specific activity, then don't. But the important thing is to think about it, right? Think about your action plan. Think about, like, you know, when this travel thing comes, you ask for thoughts on, like, what to paint, but more importantly, at this point, after all has been said and done, after all has been discussed, what is it that you plan? What is your plan to do? And not, like, again, you don't have to share, because, you know, I'm not trying to put you on the spot here. This isn't a one-on-one coaching call, right? I know, like, when you have a one-on-one coach, you kind of have to answer the question.
but well, I guess you can and you don't. Like, you have a choice. But more importantly is thinking on the question rather than actually, you know, the answer itself. Because the answer could change, right? We all change ideas. We all change our decisions, our choices. There's nothing wrong with that. It's a thing. It's a way of life. But you can at least have an action plan that can go a long way. Rather than leaving here with just like, oh, okay, some good ideas. Can't wait till it comes. But you know, if you can envision yourself doing it, if you can do all these things, it's very, very helpful. And yes, I had a life coach. I had a life coach for 1 year. It was very helpful in helping get through some things. They were. I say it, but I should say they. They were very helpful. I highly recommend anyone, you know, I highly recommend life coach at least once in your life. If you have like, especially like whether you have like big goals or, you know, like big goals like a huge promotion at work or becoming the CEO of your own company or something, or you know, you just want to like get better at a certain sport or activity. I think a life coach that's not specifically geared toward your activities can be really helpful, because you know, on one hand, it's great to have a coach that knows your activity, like your area of expertise, like a painting coach. There's this guy who brands himself as the paint coach. And I started watching his videos. They were very helpful. And then you know, there's coaches that people have for sports, and there's coaches that people have for all sorts of activities, but it can also be helpful to have a coach that's just a coach. Because sometimes plans change. And a coach that's just a coach just wants you to help you figure out where you want to go. And this isn't specifically geared toward Get Danny. I'm just kind of rambling now as I finish my wrap up here. You know, the difference between like a life coach that's only a life coach versus a coach that's like specific toward an activity. You know, it's great because a coach that's specifically for like working towards an activity, you know, they really want you to focus on activity, and that makes sense. It helps to hold you accountable or whatever. But if there's a lot of things you want to achieve, or maybe you're uncertain, then a life coach can help you focus toward that activity, because they're usually more general. A life coach, you know, will have like some more general, will have great coaching. Hopefully they have great coaching training, but more importantly, they also have, you know, they're able to help you tackle a variety of areas and not just one specific sport. So I think life coaches are great if you know, you have a lot of things that, a lot of different activities, or even like a lot of goals or whatever. But you definitely want to do portraits, but still life and landscapes would be good too. You always wanted to be proficient in different media, so your plan is to learn oil painting. All right. And you know, since you mentioned like you want to do portraits, so is that what you're saying to yourself that you're going to do once you get your paint kit? That's what I was getting at. Because you're going to learn oil painting, no matter what. You've got a kit. It sounds like you have the passion, the enthusiasm, the interest, the desire to do so. So, you know, that's an obvious, right? You're going to learn how to oil paint. That's not even a question in your mind at this point, I'm sure, right? There's no like, oh, you know, I hope I can learn oil painting. It's really just like, oh, I'm going to learn oil painting. But just as far as like an actual plan, what is, you know, the first 3 things you plan to paint?
And again, you don't have to answer that necessarily, but I've already implanted the question in your head, so now you're thinking about it, and that's the important thing. The thing that I loved about having a life coach, this is so interesting, by the way, is if you've never had anybody ask you a question and then shut their mouth and until you're done answering the question, and it could take it as long as 5 minutes. If you've never had that experience, it is so powerful. Like, for example, let me just ask you the question. I'm just going to answer this question to anybody there. What is the biggest challenge? No, that's not a good one. I want to gear towards the positive. So, what is the biggest way someone can help you when it comes to your creative goals right now? Think on that. What is the biggest way that someone can help you achieve your creative goals right now? And here's the thing. So, like, I got really quiet there, but my life coach did it so well, where if you're actually on the phone speaking to them, when I was actually on the phone speaking to them, you know, it's just so fascinating when someone actually listens, or maybe they weren't even listening, they were just letting me talk it out. And maybe you might even consider this a form of therapy, but what's so fascinating to me when interacting with a life coach, what was so fascinating to me when interacting with a life coach was like, there was what I told them and what I said, and then there was like what I actually thought and like processed and like debated with myself. And I realized that what I said was probably only like 1/5, 20% of anything, maybe even 1/10, 10%. What I said was only 10% of everything that I thought. And I find that really fascinating, which is really good to do one-on-one calls with coaches. But I have live streaming, which I realized is very helpful in getting your thoughts, your ideas, your creative thoughts and everything. But there you go, encouragement. Wonderful. So you get what you need. Yeah, exactly. And that was just a test question. It wasn't supposed to be like a deep, profound, insightful question that revealed your, most innermost challenges or anything. It was just like a, example on my live stream. But there we go. That is, I would recommend a life coach to people. I don't have one all year long, but very valuable. Life coaches are very valuable. So I would give a shout out right now. My life coach was Andrei Sheremetyev, and he was a Tony Robbins life coach. So basically, Tony Robbins has a coaching program where he has like a really sophisticated life coach matching program where you do these like an assessment that helps to supposedly pair you with the perfect life coach for you. And Andre was my life coach for a year. A very helpful year. So here, let's go and take off our gloves right now, and let's take work, everyone. So thanks for being a part of the stream. Thanks for asking these questions. Thanks for sharing your thoughts and everything. And we'll be back soon enough. Take care.